Hi everyone, we're here today to interview Pool Master Shike, leader of the Tenyukai International and first non-Japanese to receive Menkyo Kaidan in Tenjin Shinryu. My name's Lee Masters. If you don't know me, I'm Pool Master's son, and I'm also a Menkyo Kaidan under Pool Master Shike and within the Tenyukai International. So, question number one is from Aristoteles, our representative in Greece, and he asks, which points of the human body correspond to Matsukaze and Murasame?
Oh yes, that's an interesting question, a good question, one that I'm asked many times before by various martial artists. Firstly, in many Kobudo Rugi, the Matsukaze and Murasame are described as in the same location, and this is certainly seen in many of the karate books that have been written about Kyusho, vital points. For example, Gichin Funakoshi in his book mentions that they are of the same location, if I'm correct. But in our Rugi, Matsukaze and Murasame are two different Kyusho points and represent 8 of the Hiden, secret transmission, contained within our Rugi. They are very dangerous points when struck correctly. And even if you miss the target, the anatomical location where the carotid artery and the vertebral artery run through can still do serious damage. So Matsukaze, literally it means wind through the pines when you put the kanji together, but we call it Matsukaze no Satsu, which literally means pine wind keel. This is located on what is called Jinge, stomach 9 meridian. It's near the cricoid process of the human anatomy of the throat, and when struck it affects the vertebral artery. The vertebral artery is the inner artery as compared to the carotid artery, which is the external artery. The vertebral artery runs through the foramen of the vertebral segments, and it's very, very vulnerable. But of course, you have to strike deeply to affect the vertebral artery. In Tenjin Shinryu, we use not only Chinese theory and system of medicine, but also Western medicine. So our founder, the Russo Izomatemon, was thought to be like a medical doctor because he had so great a knowledge on both medical knowledge and Chinese medicine knowledge. The Western medicine knowledge came from Holland mainly, where the Dutch boats were trading with Japan, particularly in the port of Nagasaki, and many of the medical books were brought over at that time, and people like Izomatemon would study and read these books and then apply the knowledge in fact in a combination between, as I just said, Chinese medicine and Western medicine. Matsukaze is known in the Jinno-maki to be in the Yo, which is the positive place. This is a terminology describing the flow of ki. Ki is the vital energy running through the acupuncture channels and meridians, the kiraku. And if you strike it so that if you strike the point, so that you disrupt this energy flow, it's going to have devastating effects. And because this point is also near the cricoid process, you also affect, you can get a swelling, which will then affect the swallowing, and also the person will have difficulty taking food in through the mouth. Sometimes they can't even take food, and this becomes a dangerous situation to their health. So it is a very, very dangerous point. We will strike Matsukaze with the onikubushi, or tegatana as it's known generally, the side edge of the hand, but also with the knuckles, 4 knuckles making the fist, and also the Vajra fist. The Vajra fist can take in both Matsukaze and Murasame, both points at the same time. Murasame literally means, Murasame no Satsu, I should say, literally means village Renkyu. It's described in the Jinno-maki as a location between the sternocleido mastoid muscle and in between the clavicle and the sternum. So, and it sits on colon 18. This is described in the Jinno-maki as being in the in location, i.e. Yo is yang and in is yin, so negative location. This is where the is flowing down, the ki is flowing downwards, and so you would hit this point in a certain direction to stop that flow. Again, the point can be hit with the 4 knuckles. In Tenjin Shinryu we have this wrist action that can do both ways, either down or up. And it's going, first off, the direction is going straight in. Again, if you hit and strike these points with devastating power, then you're going to, in Western terms, you can cause a clot in the artery. And this is going to have severe physiological consequences. And the person doesn't necessarily die immediately from the strike. I'm not a great believer in what they call the death touch, or the touching a person and they die 7 years later. These strikes are powerful strikes. They're not touches. In fact, we call a touch, we use the word touch because to the person, the recipient of such a strike, when they go unconscious and then become conscious again, they don't actually feel pain as they're being struck, putting them unconscious. So they think they were just touched at the time. And this is the human physiology playing, or the brain playing tricks on the person. So this is where the word touch in Western terms came into it. It's not just a manner of touching someone and on transmitting ki and this sort of business. Not in my belief anyway. So in our Rugi, Matsukaze and Murasame are in 2 different locations. And the Matsukaze, as I say, is more to the middle of the neck towards the cricoid process. Murasame is towards the inferior part of the neck between the sternum, sternoclavicular, and the clavicle, superior clavicle here. So both points extremely dangerous. They are both part of the 8 Kyusho points of Tenjin Shinryu, Hiden points, secret tradition.